I would like the Senate to take note. I move to take note of the response, specifically the absence of a response by Communications Minister Senator Fifield in response to the request of the Senate for the government's response to our inquiry into the future of Australia's video game development industry. This is something that we tabled 411 days ago. 411 days. This was a unanimous report, and all I can do really is commend it to the chamber. I don't know that any of the coalition MPs who sat on that are actually in here at the moment, but I was really pleasantly surprised. We had a mix of people on this inquiry into what could be an incredibly important and vital part of the Australian economy, the kind of new economy that Prime Minister Turnbull used to go on about so much. We had a variety of senators on that committee, and everybody by the end of it, no matter how much information they had or how much experience they had with the industry before they started on the inquiry, were of one view by the end that this is an industry worth supporting, either purely for the economic arguments, which I'll go into in a moment, or, to my mind, more importantly, the artistic elements of entire new art forms that are kind of coming into being before our eyes. And so 411 days ago, we tabled a unanimous report. There were 8 recommendations. They were fairly simple and straightforward stuff, things that you would probably expect. I can go into them in a little bit of detail at the moment, in a moment. And we've heard absolutely nothing. So last month I put up a motion, which the Senate supported, to require the government to produce its response. It's the normal practice in here that when one of the Senate committees goes away and does a report and tables it and comes up with recommendations, as a courtesy, even if the government disagrees with the recommendations, you get a report back from the government saying, "Thank you for your work, here's what we're going to do with your proposals." 411 days later, that document still does not exist. And we're wondering how much longer Senator Fifield expects that it's going to take to respond to the 8 recommendations. In his comment yesterday, Senator McGrath, with his voice dripping with his usual contempt, just said, basically, "We're busy. We have to consult with a bunch of ministers. We'll get back to you." We have a letter today from Senator Fifield, who I get is busy. He's dealing with the unfolding catastrophe of the NBN, the defunding of the ABC and SBS, and the demands of the commercial media sector. I know he's got a lot on his plate. This is a good news story. This is an industry that is trying. These are creative people who are trying to make an economic and artistic contribution to our country. And the scale of the industry that they're trying to play into is something that I think has gone over the heads of everybody in here, except those who participated in the committee. It's been more than 3 years now since the coalition government announced that it would cancel the Australian Interactive Games Fund. It's nice that Senator Brandis is in here with us at the moment, because if it was one of his more casual and destructive acts for the 2014 budget, basically just elbowed a sector in the face, scratched a line item of the Australian Interactive Games Fund halfway through its 3-year funding round. We thought it might be interesting to see what had happened in the games industry since that budget line item was so casually wiped out by Senator Brandis during his short and not at all missed tenure as Arts Minister. But while Senator Fifield, who I think does bring a more technically and certainly artistically literate point of view to bear to this sector, has been considering the committee report, a couple of things have happened. Now I'd like to draw the chamber's attention to a couple of inaccuracies, or not inaccuracies, but predictions, things that the committee got wrong in that time. Because while Senator Fifield's been juggling his portfolios, the global games industry has grown to more than $100 billion annual revenues. $100 billion with a B. It's bigger than the film industry, than the global film industry combined. And that exceeds the expectations that the committee set down in its report, which was $96 billion by 2018. It's come in at least 12 months ahead of the projections that we thought of. Even if all you're interested in and all you care about are the revenues that can be gained from the global industry, you would have thought that there's an important story here. What I think the problem is that we've got ministers and expenditure review committees who want to know how many tonnes of software does this industry export every year. And there's a measure of illiteracy there that I think could only have wished, I suppose, that more coalition, more government MPs had been able to participate and see firsthand what it is that these incredibly talented and creative people are trying to do. So while Senator Fifield's been off consulting his colleagues, The first round of recipients, so the $10 million or thereabouts, that the fund was able, or that Screen Australia was able to get out the door before Senator Brandis kicked it in the face, the first round of recipients to the fund have produced several outstanding products that I would say by far exceeded the government's investment in terms of taxes paid, jobs created, global exports and continued reinvestment back into the industry. It wasn't a giveaway fund, it wasn't a slush fund, it's loans. It's a development fund that at the end of the 3-year funding cycle there's still $20 million in there because it's been paid back. A tiny investment to support a really important, the important potential of this industry. And what we saw, in part, through the Commonwealth contribution in kickstarting these projects, games like Framed, Bean Dreams, Gems of War Submerged, Hand of Fate, Crossy Road. Some of these things probably exist on some of the phones, some of the phone handsets carried around by senators in this place. And they are some of the creative and outstanding and, if you're interested, lucrative games produced by the recipients of the first round of the cancelled fund. These are people who've been able to stay in Australia and build a career, rather than going to California or going to Europe or going to Asia. Surely that is what the Prime Minister's on about when he talks about agility and innovation. Now, I don't want to hold this process up any further, but we do have some more questions for Senator Fifield to consider while he consults his colleagues. So, one, how much money, how much revenues has the Australian government lost by pulling out too soon and failing to fully recoup its investment in the projects funded in the first round? I would love to know, as part of the government's response, whether they'd calculated the opportunity cost of capping this thing off halfway through and depriving these studios, large and small, of the ability to do what it was they were trying to do. So how much have we lost? How much has this lack of vision cost the industry and the Australian economy? There'll be a number there if they can be bothered to calculate it. How much damage has been done to the industry in terms of talented and experienced developers leaving the country? Does the government have any idea how many people have left the country because of the economic opportunities that have been squandered by this government? And how many young Australians have graduated from games, technology and arts degrees to find no prospects of employment where there could be, and there still could be, a flourishing industry right here? How many opportunities has Australia missed out on to contribute to the next big hit which drives the industry and the economy onwards and upwards? I know I'm focusing mainly on the economic aspects here, and maybe some in the industry will wish that I wouldn't emphasise that so hard, because it's not all that the report covered. And as I said before, I think in a way the incredible artistic developments that are occurring here are, if anything, more important than the economic indicators. But I would have thought it would be interesting to a government trying to balance a precarious budget to know that if Prime Minister Turnbull just looked up the meaning of some of the buzzwords that he spools out at every opportunity, he would realise there are people right here who actually want to give some substance to that vision. So the government has been pretty well informed by the people who contributed to the inquiry, and I want to thank all of them. I want to thank colleagues on the crossbench, on the government side and on the opposition side for bringing a lot of goodwill to bear and being willing to listen to what the sector had to say. It's clear, though, that with every day that the government continues to consider and consult without taking the action, the recommendations that we made, is actually incurring real costs, not just economic costs but personal costs to people who want to be able to get out there and get a job. So we're up to day 411. I suspect there is something good happening behind the scenes. I suspect Senator Fifield is working on something. Maybe there is going to be something in the winds. I can't imagine that we could go through all this work and have it come to nothing. But for heaven's sake, give us a sign. There's a lot of goodwill out there in the industry, and the industry is not asking for much. These people are not asking for a great deal. We're still holding out for some good news, some sign that the government's ready to start making maybe even an apology for the damage that it did to a scheme that was set down when Mr Crean was Arts Minister under the previous government, and to come good, to make right, as Senator Fifield did with the disastrous catalyst imposition on the Australia Council funding. He fixed that, and it takes courage to fix stuff that your predecessors have buggered up. But this is one really easy thing, I think, that could be fixed without too much of an effort, not only with no impact on the budget, but with a major net positive to the Australian economy. This is an industry that's ready to get on its feet if the government is ready to listen. We look forward to getting more than just a letter in the mail from the Minister saying we need more time. I thank the Chamber.
Thank you.